All right, thank you, thank you. Yeah, from your end then. We're about to start our conversation in the next 3 minutes. Our guest is going to be joining us, right? So if you can see me, if you can hear me, I'm happy to have every single one of us here. And it's going to be enlightening, it's going to be beautiful. So just prepare yourself, prepare yourself. And also, you can invite your friends, you can share. Okay, thank you. I'm glad you can hear me now, Kinsley. You can share the link for this meeting with your friends, post on your WhatsApp status, let people know that we are going to be having a very enlightening conversation here today at the Ford Institute. Like we can see, the name of our meeting today is the African Youth and National Development. Of course, our guest is going to be coming to tell us a lot of things, right? But we know that as Africa and as Africans, we actually need to develop, right? So your own quota to the old development system is what we're going to be discussing here today, and I would really appreciate it if we're engaging in the conversation. I'd appreciate it if we're like into it, right? And not just participating, but getting something that you can use, right, when you in your real life, in the outside world. Basically, that would be the right way to say it. So a bit of more technical things to be fixed here, so everything just looks really perfect for a meeting. So we have 1 more minute. Start. Oh, we have our wonderful guest here already. Nice to see you. Mrs. Toy. Yeah, so I think we're starting now, right? I think we'll ask our guests to request, right, to join the live stream. I think I could even invite her, but I think she left already. So just wait for a minute. Oyin, welcome. Deborah, welcome. Okay, going to be joining us now. Okay, well, she's up. Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon. Where you're joining from?
Yeah, good evening. I understand that. Good afternoon, good evening,
Good
depending on where you are
everything.
in the world.
Yeah, depending on where you're in the world. It's nice to have you here
Thank
and
you.
to grace our very small but very mindful events that we're having for the development, considering the development of Africa and how African youths can participate in it. So basically, so that everybody here gets to know you, right? Let me start by saying my name is Oluchi, right? Oluchi Oluwanifemi, and I saw your name and I also saw that you have the Igbo mix to it. Yeah, so I was quite excited to see that. So basically, and funny enough, your name is my sister's name is also Oluwatoyin, so it's just It's just nice. So I just read biography and just get to know her. So, Oluwatoyin is a researcher, a speaker, policy advocate, author, and also a social impact leader. And through her work, she converges education, entrepreneurship, public policy, and development as she engages in the power of transformational thinking to empower people. And she's a transformational coach that supports visionary leaders to unlock their purpose, become more productive, and also she positions them through signature coaching events and also one-on-one coaching programs that she has. Right, our clients praise her for her expertise and her masterful delivery, unique, holistic approach that she puts into um, her coaching programs, right? She's also an academic researcher, which I really find very interesting, right? Because she holds a rare combination of expertise that intersects between education practice, research policy, and also advocates. And at the time, she was a lecturer at the University of Ibadan, and we know Ibadan first and best. And she's presently a PhD scholar at Tufts University in the United States. I could say so many things about her. She writes bi-weekly reports for the Nigerian newspaper. She's also a founder of One Foundation, which is a non-profit organization that helps to equip youths with entrepreneurial thinking and skills, right? And she has a lot to her plate, I can say. And I was reading it, I was extremely impressed, especially because I've seen her and her programs around. And I must say that she has been named one of the 100 women advancing Africa and one of the 30 women driving STEM advancements in Africa. And I think it's a great pleasure that we have her here on the call, because we know that everything she's saying not just because she thinks that it's correct, but she has insights, she has experience, and it's a pleasure and a blessing actually on my own part to be able to have this conversation with her and to also know our point of view concerning our topic. Right. So, ma'am, would you want to say anything before we start?
No, not really. Just hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here also too. So we're going to go straight on to the questions, right? And I would really encourage everybody to participate. If you have your questions or what she's saying, you can also drop it in the comment section. I will be doing my best to read and also to listen at the same time. So I think I'll start with the first question about the key barriers that you believe affects the African youths from actively participating and contributing to national development in Africa.
Thank you. So by key barriers, I'm imagining that you probably want me to sort of list specific things like, oh, maybe we don't have enough education and all of that.
Yeah, or maybe
But
based on experience.
yes, but I would rather I feel like I'm getting the feedback of my own voice, but anyway, I would rather want to talk about categories of barriers, more like
Okay.
key categories of barriers than key barriers, such that you can sort of plug them. Because usually, I've learned over the years that when you say an issue, most of the time there's a principle under the issue that is the root cause of the issue. And if you really
Definitely.
want to solve it for, like, if you really want to actually make a lasting impact on it, you need to go down. So I'd rather talk about a little bit of categories. And of course, I don't have an exhaustive list. I don't claim to do that. But in my own experience and, work over the years and observation even, I have come, two things quickly stand out to me. There's the category of a, a fixation with size. And by that,
Okay.
I mean, usually when people are talking about national development, we get carried away by the name, national as something really big,
Yeah,
that we quickly dismiss the supposed little that we can do in our corner.
that's
And we begin to think, national, for example, let's talk about, maybe we could talk about the out of school children. Nigeria has 20 million out of school children, but the truth is, out of that 20 million, maybe 4 or 5 exist in your street.
yeah.
The question is, what are you doing about those ones in your
Mm.
street? You might be so fixated about size that you think that, the 4 is almost negligible compared to the 20 million. But by the time you realize that if 1 million people like you should do something about the 4 in their streets, that's already about 25% of the people already that we've covered. So I feel like there's a category of, it's just, I think it's a mindset barrier where we are over fixated on size. We think that we underestimate what we have, we underestimate what we can contribute in our own supposed small area. I really don't like all of those words, small, big, and all of that, because it's just a fixation of size. My own policy has always been that whatever your hand finds to do, whatever capacity that you find in the instant, wherever you are, do it. You don't need to wait until you have another thing that you can have to hit before you can even start doing something. So don't get carried away by the whole national development. Nobody's expecting you to solve Nigeria problems single-handedly. The point is, what can you do on your own part? Don't get so fixated on size and on largesse that you don't see that the capacity that you have is part of the contribution that we need. That's on one side. The second category is a little bit of an opposite of that. So let me say maybe it's balancing that. So there are people who have sort of been able to pull themselves away from this barrier, in the sense that, they've understood that, I can contribute my little everywhere I go and all of that. And eventually they also get fixated in size in a different way. Like they get fixated in their little.
Okay.
What I mean by that is, we are just, you are concerned, okay, the 4 in my street, but there has to come a time. The more you do the 4 in your street, I'm using the example I used at first.
Okay.
There has to come a time when you begin to ask yourself, how can I find other people like me that we can sort of leverage our capacity and our contributions together to make it be able to reach more.
That's true.
So there's a part of, underestimating the small, and there's a part of getting stuck in the small. Yeah, you can underestimate the small, what you have, and think it's small, or you can get stuck in it. You can just want to do your own part. But the truth is that your part is good, but we need more than your part. And you also have a responsibility to ensure that other people eventually also do their part of inspiring other people to actually join you. You are both a contributor and almost like a preacher of finding more contributors, something like that. So it's both. So it depending on where you are. The truth is that we always find that most of our issues will most likely fall into either of those categories.
Yeah.
Do you understand? The categories of, are we getting stuck in? Are we sort of getting limited by the sense that what we have is small, or we are getting stuck in what we are doing that we don't see that there can be a way to sort of leverage more, form community, come together in consortium to be able to do more.
I really like the two angles that you came from, right? Because we live in this age of social media where everybody wants to do it big, right? You go online, you see somebody that has this, and there's that place of you're comparing yourself to them. I want to just ask, just to buttress on like the points you've made, because I know that you have an NGO, right? And I know you started from scratch. You didn't take someone's NGO and just start going with it, right? So how did you overcome those phases, right? Of when it seemed like that your dream of 4, maybe you couldn't even, maybe the 4 was not given, you're not able to move forward with it, right? How did you overcome that place of, okay, you're seeing somebody else doing 15, and then you really want to go beyond the 4, but really you can't go beyond the 4? So the place of comparison and also the place of being content.
That's a good question. And I really think so, because the truth is that the more we think about contribution, the more we always find out that there's a place for self-discovery in all of this. Because eventually we only give out of who we are. And that's why I've always, that's why I see a connection in all the things I do. Some people feel like, oh, you are doing personal coaching, but at the same time you're impacting society. I'm like, they're not really different. Because eventually coming into a personal sense of clarity, of conviction of who you are, of confidence in who you are, of contentment with your own life, eventually influence how much you can impact the world. It does. So the question you're asking me now is more of a question of the person now, not just even the contribution. is a question of how do you begin to grow into a more robust view of who you are, of what your capacity is, of what your journey looks like, understanding that your journey is actually going to be unique. There's going to be seasons in your life where you just have to deal with for, and that's faithfulness. I over the years I'm learning to judge the quality of work of people not from the numbers anymore, but from an understanding of, are they being true to their true capacity right now? So the issue is not if you're doing 4 or 15. The issue is that in this instance, what can your capacity do? I think it's really being about being true to yourself.
That's true.
Do you understand? Of course, desiring more, but being true to yourself in the instant, and understanding that it is as you progressively settle with yourself, who you are, that you are able to explore even better parts of yourself. So as you find your capacity to do 4 and you continue with, you unlock your capacity to do 15. And the person who is doing 15 when you are doing 4, they were just being true to their own capacity. It's as simple as that. So when we begin to look at it from that perspective, we begin to see that there's really no need for some of the unnecessary, and for crying out loud, the goal here is contribution, not competition. It's the fact that eventually we're able to contribute. And remember the second thing I said the other time, which was the reason why I said it was also a key kind of barrier, in the sense that when you realize that eventually not getting stuck in the small will take more than you realize that the person doing 15 is not your competitor in that. The most important thing is that contribution is getting done. That's the most important thing. If what you are really concerned about is contribution, the most important thing is that as much as possible, everything around you is contributing and you are able to add your own to it. It's as simple as that.
So it brings us to define actually the motive of your contribution, right? Because we can't actually you can define impacts by number, but you really can't also define impacts by number also too. So if you believe that you are giving what you are able to give at a particular point in time, then you should be content in that. If your true desire is the contribution, so it's like telling every leader here to go and check why are you actually doing what you're doing, right? Because if you're doing it for the sake of like development, national development now, then you should be happy with where you are while reaching out to other people.
You both be happy with where you are and the fact that there are other people doing more. Because the truth is, you can't do it alone. It's never meant for you only to solve. The most important thing is that is things being done. It's not first of all even just if you are the one doing it. It's that is things being done and am I contributing my part? If those answers are yes, you're good.
I really like the perspective that you've brought to it. It's actually very, very, it's something I actually believe in, and it's nice. And I also wanted to just bring it back a little and maybe focus on entrepreneurship, because I know that you have like a specialty in that, right? So how do leaders who are into the entrepreneurial space, right, do you think this same principle you've mentioned also work for them, or is there something else that you could add for entrepreneurs, for example?
So I think it works. To be honest, in my thinking, social impact, entrepreneurship, and all of that, they are not that different to me. And the way we might eventually go about it will be different. But there's maybe because right for me, there's always this central goal of contributing to the society, of ensuring that whatever I do sort of equips other people to be able to do what they need to do to also contribute to society. I don't really see too much difference between the work I do in social impact space from the work I do in education, from the work because I feel like if the heart is right, we can build the principle upon the foundation of the heart. Do you understand? And if we can settle in our hearts that we're really trying to contribute, we are really trying to, do our best for our nation, for our community, for our society, it influences the way you do business. It influences the way you go about social impact. It influences the way you even go about guarding your own life. So I really, at least on this level of, intentions and, just ensuring that contribution is really the goal of our hearts. It's not even necessarily what we gain from it and all of that. It works the same way. The question would then be, how then do you use this in entrepreneurship? Do you understand?
Okay.
The path does not change, but the application of it in terms of how it then shows up, of course, is going to differ, because now you are dealing with clients, not do you understand? You are
Yes.
dealing with clients, not beneficiaries. You are dealing with investors, not donors. What? Two different kind of people.
Yeah.
Yes.
So could you actually answer that question you just
Okay.
raised? Actually,
So the
last
question is, I think the way to think about it is, if you understand that at the heart of your work is contribution, you want to ensure that, whatever specific way that you have found that you can contribute to society. For example, as an entrepreneur who runs a coaching firm, my contribution is because over the years I found that the more people are able to create value, the busier their life gets.
Mm.
And if you are not careful, your intention of creating value in itself can make you a very unnecessary martyr, in the sense that you begin to consume yourself in the process of contribution, and it doesn't have to be that way. And all of this also came from my own experience and from my observation. So my interest was, how do you help people who have found ways to contribute as visionaries to be able to do what they need to do, continue to do more, but do it in a way that doesn't burn them out? Do you
Okay.
understand? And that's what I'm trying to do with my coaching practice. And how does all of these things that I've talked about then influence the way I go about it, right? Is how does all of this idea that, the contribution is the goal and all of that, it influences even my business decisions. It influences the kind of people I even choose to work with. Well, I don't know about other people, but I understand that client relationship is a choice on both ends. It's not
Yeah.
everyone that says, come and coach me, that I say yes to. That's
Interesting.
me.
Okay.
These are the way that some of these things I'm saying guide my own principles, in the sense that I need a sense of, I want to deal with someone who is also thinking from a contribution perspective, who is not just thinking in terms of, I want to run a business where I scam everybody, and do you
Oh,
understand? And I want to know how to do it faster. I'm definitely not going to work with you. So do you understand?
yes.
Because my goal is contribution. I'm looking at, where is the way I'm going about the business, even in my client decision, does it actually contribute to this goal of ensuring that I am able to contribute and the people I'm helping are also able to contribute? So if they are not contribution driven, there's already a value detachment. Do you
Sorry.
understand? There's a disparity of value that I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah.
Do you understand? I can refer you to something else, but I don't think myself and you can work together. Those are decisions that I decide to make. Yeah. So that's an example. So I think it just influences, it guides your decision. It guides how that's the thing. It feels like almost like this sense of value that you weigh your business decisions by, and you begin to ask yourself. I remember that someone like what's her name, Mrs. Ibukwanwoshik, has spoken a lot about how building a business, she had to deliberately make decisions that were against what other people were doing in terms of bribing people to get into things and all of that. It shows a
Yeah.
sense of value, understanding that my goal here is to contribute to my nation, not to rip off from the nation. So it influences even the way that she went about her businesses. That's what I do.
Yeah, and I see that the art of everything you're talking about is knowing yourself as a leader and knowing how you want to give out knowing what yourself as a leader and knowing what you want to give to people. If you've not settled those two things yet, I think it's going to be extremely difficult when challenges come, when competitions come, when there are issues generally. You won't be able to navigate if you've not settled those two matters. And
Yes.
thank you very much
If I
for
can add
that.
a little bit to that before you go ahead, I would say it's a combination of knowing yourself as a leader, knowing what drives you as a leader.
Yes.
You understand the whole idea of, I want to contribute to my society. I want to ensure that in my own way, I'm able to ensure that I move my nation forward, I move my society forward, I move my community forward. And those things then sort of, they form like an underpin, sort of this kind of foundation that guards how you even see the things you see, and how you go about decisions in the journey of actually doing the contribution, so that you are true to your intentions, you are true to the value, you are true to what you were trying to do.
And it makes us a leader of integrity, actually, also. So you don't
Exactly.
have something else in your statement of mission or vision, and you just say that you are just living a completely different life from what you have said. Thank you very much. It's very very important. And I also saw that from your biography that you're into tech, and I recently was participating at a project, and I realized that Nigerians use internet a lot. We have one of the highest usage of social media in the world. Apparently, we're even number two, right? Just immediately after Brazil. I'm very surprised by this, right? Because Nigerians complain that data is expensive. There are a lot of things around it, and I'm not even moving away from Nigeria and looking at Africa as a broader perspective. I see that we use internet, we are very active online, but then I've not seen how we're able to use technology, these things that internet technology brings to us to create new opportunities for ourselves. I feel like we just go online, chat, and just not even. So, how do you think that we can leverage on technology and innovation to create new opportunities for us as Africans to develop our skills and access resources?
So thank you for that question. And to be honest, I don't think myself as a technology leader, but of course I've had to deal with technology one way or the other. And to answer that question, I feel like the first thing that I always like to say when it comes to this is that we need to demystify what tech is.
That's
Yeah.
true.
There's a sense where we when we think tech, there are certain things that come to our minds. So when somebody say they are using tech, we're thinking maybe they have an app. There are certain things that quickly come to our minds. But one of the things we need to quickly realize is that it is not the tool that is the tech.
Yeah.
It is the idea of what it does, which is the work of amplification. That is actually what technology means. What technology means is that you are able to do something you would have done in a different way, easier, faster. You're able to amplify the work and all of that. When we begin to look at it that way, it begins to help us see what I would like to call invisible tech all around us. Yeah, if I can use that word. So if we're talking about leveraging technology, the question is, what are the way to probably first of all think about that is, what are we trying to do, and how can we leverage tools and systems and platforms around us that can help us amplify it or do it easier? When we begin to ask that question that way, it makes the answer come to us more easily. And I'm saying this first because I'm a startup advisor, and I've had to coach and advise a number of startups in different parts of Africa. In fact, I'm working with one right now. That's one that really comes to my mind, as an ed startup in Rwanda. And one of the things I've noticed generally, particularly with young people who are trying to start innovative entrepreneurial things, is that they are always very quick to say, "Oh, we're going to use tech. We're going to create an app that specific people will use." And sometimes I'm asking, "But you are trying to increase access to healthcare in rural community. Do you really think people in rural community are going to be using
The
your
app.
app? Don't you think in that kind of situation, USSD is the right tech there? In the urban area, USSD does not look like tech. But the truth is that by the time you begin to realize that the tech has to make what you are trying to do easier, faster, and a lot more amplified, it changes your thinking of tech. So you understand that if you are dealing with rural people, you are not trying to get them to download it on Play Store. Even if they have tech-enabled phone, do they have strong internet? Do you
That's true too.
understand? So
Yeah.
the idea here is this. I know I'm answering this question with a question, because I don't think that the answer here is maybe a specific answer, because it will change from industry to industry. The better answer, I think, is to really demystify what we think as tech. To not say, "Oh, what tech can we use to innovate?" To rather ask yourself, what can we use? What tools, what platform, what template, or whatever can we use that can make this work easier, more accessible to the people that we're trying to deal with, faster, or amplify our message faster? When we begin to think about it that way, do you understand? It makes it a lot easier. That's my summary. You're trying to provide health care things to old people. But because everybody say TikTok marketing is the right way, TikTok marketing is the right way. But TikTok is for Gen Z. Do you understand? So it's really understanding. So it's a mixture of demystifying technology, understanding that tech is not the tool. It's really about amplifying. It's about, do you understand? It's about making things easier. It's about making things faster. It's about making things actually be able to reach the people, make it more accessible to people, and put that side by side with the people who are actually trying to help with your entrepreneurial effort. And you know, their realities. When we put that together, innovation becomes easy for us to see.
You have made an extremely profound point, right? Because if you look at it, there are some people that should not probably have some social media accounts, because the people they are trying to meet probably do not even, they're not there, they don't see it. So is either you're trying to impress the public, or you're actually trying to like reach your market, right? So the question is, how do you get to your target audience? How do you get to your market? What is the strategy that you can use, right, to reach them? And that is your own definition of technology. That's my takeaway. If, by the way, if you guys have any questions, right, I'm learning a lot, and because I'm the one hosting, I can ask, right, follow up, but you can't, right? So if you have more questions or any questions, wishes, she said, please do not forget to just, you know, ask. And I'm seeing the comments, and I'm seeing that you guys are following. That's beautiful, right? So I'm going to go another angle and just talk about your advocacy for policy change, right? And I also want to ask that how do you think entrepreneurial leaders can advocate for policy changes and reforms, right, that can support youth-led businesses?
So that is it was when I saw the question, I was like, okay, that's actually big question. Because the truth is that we have left policy making for a long time to supposed policymaker, and it has done us a lot of disservice, particularly in Africa. We've in a way, to be honest, I'm still really trying to read up and all of that to understand how we got here, because the idea of public policy was supposed to be about public participation, and Nigeria started out that way. There were times when, you know, policies were actually designed with interest from the public, but for some reason we've just left it to the people in the Senate House and all of those kind of things. So this I think is really a good question, because if we're making policies about businesses, we're supposed to be actually involving entrepreneurial leaders, like the people who are in the business. But the question, the way I would like to answer that question is, how can the business leader make their cases to actually be able to influence policy? And I think the simplest thing that comes to my mind is the need for us to be data driven. And by data driven, I don't even just mean, you know, when we talk data, we are keep thinking data analytics, you know, all of the
Something
beautiful
big.
I don't, yes. This one of the issues I have when we're talking about things like we think of the complicated things first. We don't go back to first principles. Like all of this beautiful data, what does it even mean? So what I mean by that is this: is how do you show, not just tell, what you're advocating for?
Okay.
So let me give you an example of what we did in One Foundation, because I feel like the question that you are asking really works for us, because that's literally the kind of thing we do. So in our 5th year, we sort of pivoted, if I can use that word. Not like pivot in terms of we changed what we were doing, but sort of added something more, which was now a little bit of advocacy to the government. And the level of government that we had access to, which was more local government and a bit of state government, to begin to say, guys, we think we have some ideas of how you can help young people who are trying to build enterprise to actually develop their enterprises in Nigeria and in this state. And why were we able to say that? It was that over the last 5 years, we had gathered data from the people that we were working with. So when we make people register for programs, we want to do a program on Zoom or something like that, we make people register, we ask them questions. You know, what industry are you in? What are the issues that you have? What was your startup capital? Things like that. I know people used to wonder why we're asking all those questions then. Like, what do you want to use that to do in a Zoom meeting? It was because we were gathering data. Because we wanted to be able to say, You see, we've over the last 5 years, we've been able to encounter about 3,500 entrepreneurs. And we can tell you of all of these people, we have noticed again and again. For example, this is one of the things that we noticed, that fashion, people who were interested in fashion were usually the highest numbers. So that we were able to say, if you really want to, there's something about the creative art that we need to look into. As much as we are saying STEM and all of that, young people are getting more and more interested in things like this. So if you want to help, you can begin to, maybe do trainings on maybe fashion finishing schools and things like that. We began to see that, okay, these are the kind of issues that many of them you are usually saying they have, that, okay, they need this kind of mentoring, or they need this kind of startup capital, or they need this kind of things. So it was an issue of, we were not just saying, oh, government should do this. But is that we're showing you from the people that we are advocating for, and we are using data right from their own examples to do. That is the way we are doing it, because we are actually working in more of an entrepreneurial development space. But entrepreneurial leaders themselves, people who own business themselves, can also do it by actually being data driven about their own businesses. And what I mean by that is, I don't even mean data driven in terms of how much revenue did you make. That's one level. But there's also another level that is more like high level, if I can call it that. A little bit more of, there's a way that you can view houses by walking around a street, but there's a way you can view houses from a plane, where all of a sudden you don't just see the house, you see the patterns. You see that in this area, houses are built straight, and then there's, houses like this, then road like this. Whereas in this place, roads crisscross houses instead of going by their side. Things like that. That's the kind of thing I'm beginning to, that I am beginning to see that we're actually missing out a lot, particularly in African business administration. Look at places like MBAs around the world, the Harvard Business Schools, the Wharton Business School. What do they use to teach their students? Case studies. What are case studies? Case studies are really stories of businesses that have been looked at from this high perspective. Like, oh, this first year of their 5 years, they were doing operations, they were growing the operations, and they did it this way. This next 8 years, these were the things they had, these were the major challenges that came with this kind of phase. We don't do a lot of that. So entrepreneurs are not able to really advocate, because we don't feel like we have a lot of stories to show evidence of what we are saying. People are just concerned about the revenue they are making this year, this month. But if we want to create a system that is going to work for more people, we need to be able to look at our stories from a larger perspective. What is similar between many of our successful businesses? We need to look into that, because that is telling us something that works in our clan. But we're too siloed. We are too short-termed. Yes, we're just thinking about how we want to make the money now. But we are playing a long-term game here, and we should be playing a long-term game here.
Yeah, a very valid point, right? And I really think that in the context of Africa and Nigeria, for example, right, this becomes a bit.
I can still hear you.
Okay, all right. This becomes a bit difficult because we have people who launch into the entrepreneurial space, right? But even though they want to contribute to society, they are hungry. They actually want to eat, right? They need to feed their family. And when you have government or a community that doesn't help to drive your dream, you don't have a community that maybe patches things up for you at the moment where you are still maybe starting, it becomes difficult, right? In some sense. So it's hard to look at the long term when you are hungry, short term, and you know that if you don't eat now, the long term might not come, right? So how do you think we can navigate that actually? Because I believe that people want to do things, but people are hungry at the same time.
The reason why I was smiling is because that question reminds me of the conversation that myself and my brother used to have a lot. My brother is one of my he's one of my mentors, but even more than that, someone who I always had the opportunities to have all this kind of national development conversation with almost on a easy base. Like it's just something we just gist about in the house. And we talked a lot about this whole short term and long term thing and how it's true. It's difficult to think at some level where you are hungry.
Yes.
That's the truth, That's what somebody said to me one time when I was, I remember I wrote a news article about how our education should make people think and all of that. And I remember that my friend, he just sent me a message. He sent me a response. I was like, Toyin, well, I agree with you. But you need to realize that it's difficult to think when you're hungry. And I remember that thing really stuck me. I was like, oh my God, that's actually true. It's literally physiologically difficult.
Yes, actually.
Like, just physiologically, it's
You need to
difficult to
eat
think
well
when you're
so
hungry.
your brain can work well.
But the truth is, and what I'm about to say, it's not going to sound easy. And this is me being honest.
Yeah.
We need to realize that there's going to come a time where we will have to prioritize hunger today or hunger tomorrow. Yeah, I know that it doesn't sound like the best answer. And maybe the nice answer would have been government needs to do better, blah, blah, blah. And I do agree. But the truth is that we can't keep waiting.
That's true.
We will only make our hunger worse. So, yeah, I think there comes a time where we need to make tough decisions and realize that some things will be tough at some time. And we will deal with the hardness to make it a little bit easier in front. It's just the way, maybe as a student, you know that you need to pass so that eventually you are able to do something good with your life or something like that. So there are times where you hold yourself back from every other thing, you stop your social media, you do all of that, you don't forget about food because you need to read. And you go through all of those sacrifices and all of that to be able to eventually, do you understand?
Yes,
And
I
now
do.
I am saying this on a personal level. I'm not saying this on a national level. I'm saying this on a very personal level. I feel like everybody, each person, after a while, will come to a point in their life where you will have to really tell yourself, yes, it is difficult to think when I'm hungry, but if I continue not to think, I will continue to be hungry.
That's right.
So there's going to be a time where I'm going to even have to defy the hunger and think why I'm still hungry, so
Yeah,
that I'm able to create a way to actually deal with my hunger, so that I don't have to be thinking why I'm hungry again.
that's true.
Yeah, it's something like that. This thing is personal. That's the truth. It's personal. Everybody has to come to that defining point where you have to make radical decisions of facing hardship headlong to be able to rescue yourself from hardship at a later point. Yeah.
You are I think it's a hard pill to swallow,
It is.
right? But it's the truth, and the truth doesn't sound so good at this moment, right? But it still remains the truth because everybody has to pay a sacrifice. Whether you were born in a society whereby everything is like easy for you, or you're in a society that things are more difficult, everybody still has to pay a level of sacrifice. And it's quite unfortunate that maybe we believe that as Africans we have to pay more sacrifice than maybe people in the Western world. But I say that the reason why Africa remains like this because we have people who have refused to pay the sacrifice and they've been pushing it, pushing it, pushing it, and we see that it doesn't get better. The older you get, the more responsibilities you have, and the more responsibilities you have, now you're not just hungry by yourself, but your wife is hungry, your children are hungry, then everybody's hungry, everybody in the house is hungry. So if you could not settle the matter right when you were maybe single, for example, right, to quench your own, to find a way to stop that hunger, right, we have a whole generation of hungry people, right? It's quite difficult, right? But this is when we found ourselves, and I actually feel like Africans have the resilience that is required to pay the sacrifice. I've had the opportunity to interact with some people, and I just feel like, oh my God, Nigerians are just very tough people in this world. We're just on another level of toughness. I said that I cannot do this because I'm Nigerian, and if I do it, my mother will even because I know that I have it in me to pay the sacrifice, and I think that what I want everybody to take right from here, also that we all have it in us. You want to say something, ma'am?
Yes, actually. You said something that I was mentally asking myself, should I let it go? Should I talk about it? Should I let it go? But I decided that I was going to talk about it.
Okay.
When you were saying something about how we as Africans, we have to pay more sacrifice than people in the Western world, I agree with you to a level. I genuinely think that we over we overinflate the realities outside of Africa. We do, and I feel like people who have been on this side have a lot more balanced view. Sometimes they are not honest. That's the truth. They are not honest because sometimes, of course, they have to justify why they moved. So it's
And they
better
want
to
to paint a better picture of living abroad.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong. Yeah, systems, it works and all of that, good roads. I get, and those are really important things. I used to say that, trust me, if you fix 3 things in Nigeria, Nigerians will fix the rest for themselves. Fix road, fix light, fix internet. Those 3 things.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if we have those 3 things and it works properly, I'm certain that African youth have what it takes to create their own empires. So I'm not underestimating those things. But what I'm really trying to say here is that, yeah, there are different kind of hardship, and the kind of economic hardship that we know is not the only kind of hardship, and it's not the worst kind of hardship. I think I'm just going to leave it like that. This is not a conversation about that, so let me leave it.
Yeah. Yes. It's not okay. I would have actually loved to further it myself, because yes, but do you? You're going to do it, right?
No. You know what? Don't it's a temptation, but I don't want to get started on that. Let's just
Let us move on.
yes.
Right. Okay. So I also asked the question. So maybe these are going to be our final question. Okay. I saw that Kenny Pio asked the question, but I don't know if your question has been answered in the course of when she's speaking about. I think she asked about how do you show and not just tell about your. Let me get it back. I can't find it now. Something about show and tell, but I think you mentioned it, right? I think you answered it as you were speaking about showing and telling your values or something like that. Yeah. You say you should mention one type of hardship, ma, that you should not leave it.
No, that's a very big temptation that I'm not going to fall into. Maybe it's a whole different
Yeah.
conversation. And the truth is that
I,
the more I talk about it, the more there will be something to talk
yeah,
about. And I don't think
I
but
actually do agree with that.
all I'm just going to say is that we need to know that there's really no perfect word anywhere.
That's true.
And every nation in the world has their own really terrible, serious issues.
That makes
Yeah.
the sacrifice more
Yes.
for them.
Yes.
Yes.
That makes life difficult
Yes.
for them.
Yeah.
I need to remember that even in Nigeria, with the mother was saying, "Oh, things are hard" and all of that. People have money
Yes.
in that nation.
Yeah.
People have money. Like, I'm not talking money. I'm saying money, real money. Let's. So I like the way one of my mentors said it, and she always says this, particularly around the issues of Japa and all of that, and I do agree with her. And she talks about how we need to understand that our values are first invested in ourselves, and not necessarily in locations.
Okay.
And a person who thinks of themselves as not having too much to offer, location doesn't change it.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't change it.
Yeah.
So we need to begin to reduce how we overemphasize locations over the reality of the sense of value that we believe that we carry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a very good point. Way for you to just like tie it up together. I think it's good, and I think it's extremely profound. I wanted to say something to that, but we don't have time, like 14 minutes left, right? But I think the question, thank you, Casey, for sending me the question about how do you show and not tell what you're advocating for, right? So how do you do more of showing than telling? But I think you already mentioned it in some sense, but if you maybe want to add.
So I'm going to talk just a little bit about that. So
Okay.
what I mean by showing, it has different layers to
Okay.
it. It has the principles and the practice layer. What I mean by that is there's a way where I come and tell you, oh, I'm a woman, you should respect me, and all these kind of things. But there's a way I can carry myself around you that all of that becomes clear to you. Yeah. Are there not people that you have met and you just you don't know them, but you find yourself just saying, oh yes, ma, not because you know them, but there's just a sense of, and that kind of thing does not happen in one day. That's the first thing. That's one of the difference between showing and telling. You have to understand that showing it takes time,
Consistency.
and it takes time, it takes consistency, it takes principle and practice. That's the truth. It takes a mixture of, and I'm saying this on a personal level. Let me really bring it to the question, because I know that when I was talking about the show and tell, I was saying it in terms of how entrepreneurial leaders can sort of help in designing policy. So
Policy.
I
Yeah.
want to ensure that I pull myself back to that, because we can talk about it in several ways.
Okay.
In that sense, what I mean by that is, for example, let's use an example. Let's use um Oluwatoyin as an example. One way or the other, over the years, you can see that Oluwa has gotten more opportunity to actually influence government leaders.
Yeah.
They listen to him, not just people. Some people will say, oh, it's because of Andela, but it's not even there anymore. It's not CEO of, is not a part of Paystack anymore.
Yeah.
What am I saying? Flutterwave anymore. But the truth is that over the years, he has contributed in multiple ways with data-driven insight of what works and what doesn't. It's not only been able to do it, it's been able to replicate it even in others through Future Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
understand? So that's an example of someone who is showing, who is not just, and the idea of showing is that you need to look at your business not only from the perspective of something that is trying to be a source of sustenance for you, but something that is going to be like a case study for other people to be able to build things like that. So you are able to not only, hit your goals, but to abstract template of success from yourself that you have evidence for, replicable evidences for, that you can then use as evidences to say you know what you're saying. Do you understand? I hope that gives maybe a little bit of an example of what.
It does for me actually. And when you come from kind of understanding that this thing takes time, and if you are going to be doing, if you are telling, you are basically shouting, right? Let me just put it like that. You are making people, but if you show, people are able to perceive it, and I feel like the reception that comes from seeing, right, over time actually even does more to a person's heart compared to if you are just, if you're having to like prove yourself in some sense, if you are not being, if you're not being, if you don't show it to people. So it's like you say you are selling something and you keep saying I'm selling something, but where is what you are selling? They can't like see it from your life, or they can't even
Hence
see
the evidences.
what's the
Yeah.
evidence. Yeah, what's the evidence that you are selling this thing, right? So even so it brings it back that, so even in your entrepreneurial activity, you can also bring it to the policy part of it. So if you believe in this policy, act like it. Basically, I think that's what I can say I got from what you said. So, when you made a comment, I will just read, because I think I just think we will to answer the other question. Say in essence, even if we're not directly involved in the broader national development process, but we make effort to influence a small group of people, it's still a part of it. Yes, yes, right. It's still a part of it. And I think we can talk about maybe we have 9 minutes. I don't know, should I just ask this last question about entrepreneurship and education, right? How do you think we can collaborate together? Because I know that you're doing your research now, and I actually wanted to ask you why you decided to go for a PhD, right? Why did you make that decision, right? So how, yeah, maybe you could just.
I'm wondering which of your questions I'm going to be able to answer in 9 minutes. Because the question of why I decided to go to a PhD, I can give you an entire story. But the summary of it was that I saw what I wanted to change, and I saw that it was going to empower me to do it. That's the summary. Yeah, I saw a lag in the education space that just spoke to me. Like this like I had a clear picture of what I thought was possible with a certain kind of um thinking and model of education that I didn't feel like I saw a lot. I saw it once in a while in specific teachers and things like that, but I thought there a way that we could sort of make this ubiquitous and make this, make this democratized. So that's the summary. And I saw that it was, I was trying to do it on my own at first, do courses and all of that, but eventually I realized that no, this needs a deep dive. Yeah, that's the answer to that. Then the question about education and entrepreneurship, I hope I'll be able to do justice to this in 8 minutes because I actually have a lot of thoughts on that.
Oh.
In the sense that the conversation about academia and industry has been had in multiple one-sided ways.
Okay.
And by one-sided, I mean every generation have its one-sidedness. Our own current one-sidedness to that conversation is this thing about how we need to create we need to ensure that the academia is producing graduates that are able to work in the industry. That's good. I agree. I do agree. But what I quickly always say to people is this, is if we begin to tailor the academia today to be able to simply give people the skills that the industry needs today, what happens to the industry of tomorrow?
Okay, that's true.
Because eventually we'll be making the same mistake all over again. Because we need to understand that what the issue we're having today is because the academia of today was designed to actually equip some people with the skills that they needed before. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Like the way the academia was designed for, say, the second industrial revolution, where most of the things that you needed was a sense of your sense of mastery was more of a sense of repetition, your ability to use the machines and things like that, know how it operates, know how to press it and all of that. But over the years, things have changed. When the knowledge of coming, where you need to even understand why the machine works, be able to rebuild the machine, build new ones and all of that.
Yeah.
But the academia is slower to change. So the conversation has always been that we need more than just saying, oh, academia should build the skills for people in the industry, Because let's use the typewriter as an example. It wasn't too long ago that typewriter was a big deal. And I really mean that. I've been alive when typewriter was a big deal. So, and I'm not that old. Do you understand?
Fighting is good for the course.
There was a
Yeah.
time when typewriter was a big deal. What am I even saying? There was a time when it was a worthy investment to have a cyber cafe.
Yeah.
Cyber cafe, yeah. There was a time when it was a worthy investment to have a call center. All of these things were when I was in secondary school. It's not that far. See how much the world has changed in 10 years, 15 years. So if we keep designing the academia just to be able to help people do what is looking as if it is nice as the right profession right now, what you need to remember is that before they are done with that academy, the world has changed.
That's true. That's true.
So my own conversation has always been that we need to first of all understand that the role of the academia is much more than preparing people with the skills that they need to function in the industry today. It is, yes, you should do that. I don't dispute, but our real goal is actually, the simplest way I'd like to say it is to open people's consciousness of their capacity to think. so that they can understand that even as the world change, they have the capacity to adapt to the world that they're going into. You can't predict what the world will change like. I know we have all of this prediction, but if anything, COVID has come and humbled all of us.
Yes.
Came and humbled all of us. Who would have thought that there's going to be something that happened in a small city, and in 6 months, more than 60% of the world already had the case of it? Who would have thought? It stumbled even some of the best medical people around the world, even WHO. It's not part of the reason why many of them have issues right now, because the reason why many of them people don't even trust many of them right now is because there's a sense that they misled us with some of the information they gave us those times. And it's not because they were trying to mislead. It was simply because they themselves, they were trying to grapple with it. It was new. So the idea, what I'm trying to say here is this. When we're thinking about this whole entire collaboration of education and entrepreneurship, we need to understand that the work is not to get education to be, let me be using academia and industry. I think that's a better word. The idea should be beyond just trying to get academia to follow after industry. Rather, I really think that the best thing is to ensure that academia produce people who can eventually lead industry into new places. So we have a lot of work, and that's why the work we have to do is a lot, because we even have the work of catching up to do before we now talk about leading. There's a lot of catch up to do. Now, to then bring that into practical sense, because now what I've said is a lot more foundational in terms of principle level, but to practical sense is that how does this collaboration then work? We just need to have humility on both sides. There needs to be humility on both sides. That's the truth.
I agree with you.
There needs to be a sense of humility on the academia side to realize that right now we are playing catch up.
Okay.
Which means that there's a chance that the people in industry knows more than us over certain things. But there also needs to be humility on the industry side to realize that eventually, if academia does its right work, industry is supposed to actually be looking to the academia, because they're supposed to create the frontiers. Do you understand? Why you people are trying to use the skills and technology of today, academia is supposed to be actually be trying to find the technology of tomorrow. At least that is what is happening in the developed world. That's why you see many of the big corporations partnering with. Still hear me? Okay, you can hear me. Can you confirm?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can hear you.
So the idea is, first of all, we need humility on both sides, and when we have that humility, when we begin to embrace that humility, we'll be open to change. And there are so many opportunities for change. There are so many ways of change. You know, a quick example that I've been saying is that we need to change how we are doing undergraduate projects. We really need to change it. We really, really, really need to change it. Like our undergraduate project which is supposed to be like the seminar work, the one of the most important independent work that undergrads get to do, should actually be a lot less restricted the way we have restricted it. It should be an opportunity for people to explore, explore multi-disciplines. It's not just, okay, for example, I did geology. It should not just be about, okay, what in geology can you do? Is that how can you use geology to apply to other places? We need to expand. That's the point. We need to allow more innovations, new thinking, allow the problems of today to influence what we are designing in many of these research and projects that we are going about. I think I'm going to end here. I can see that my time is up, and I'm going to have to run soon because I have a meeting again.
Okay, thank you very much for everything you've said to us today. It's been very wonderful. Please, I need you guys in the comments to just show a sense of appreciation right now to yes, please. I need to see that you guys, I think even people that are listening are a bit behind because I see their comments a bit behind. But mom, thank you very much, and I'm so happy to have been here, and the knowledge you have given us is just very, very, very important. And God
Thank you.
bless you. Yeah.
Thank you so
So
much. And you guys, well done. You guys are hosting really amazing conversations. I think these are needed conversations that we need to have. And I like the fact that, to be honest, this is already a way of contribution, in my opinion. This is already a way of contribution. And I'm excited for you guys. Well done to yourself, to your president, Kingston. I know she's supposed to be here somewhere.
yes, yes.
Well done to all of you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you
Everyone.
very much, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye. So, guys, we have heard a lot of things today, and I really want to just tell us that, first of all, know yourself as a leader, know the value that you're giving out. Don't compare yourself with other people, and please, you know, show. Don't just talk about it. Show that okay, this is what I'm giving, and actually do it with integrity as a good leader. So, thank you very much, and we'll see you in our next live event. Stay tuned. All right then. Bye bye. Bye everybody. Yeah. Bye.